यौवनं जरा
कौमारं यौवनं जरा
यथा देहान्तिर्प्राप्तिर्
तथा देहान्तरप्राप्तिर्
धीरस्ना तत्र मोहते
धीरस्तत्र न मुह्यते. Hari Bol. Dehinosmin yata dehe Kaumaram yauvanam jara Tata dehantara praptir Dhira satra namuyate. Hari Bol. Who's next?
Dehinosmin yata dehe
Dehinosmin yata dehe
Yauvanam yauvanam jara
Kaumaram yauvanam jara
Katadiyantaram prapti
Tata dehantara praptir
Dhirastatra namuyati
Dhirastatra namuyate. Hari Bol. Who's next?
Dehinosmin yata dehi
Dehinosmin yata dehe
Kamaram yavaram jara
Kaumaram yauvanam jara
Tata dehantara prapti
Tata dehantara
tatra dhiras tatra namuyati.
Dhirastatra namuyate. Hari Bol. You prompt them. Next, anyone? Kaumaram yauvanam jara Tata de Hari Bol. Dehinosmin yata dehe Kaumaram yauvanam jara Tata dehantara prapti
Tatra namuyati
Dhirastatra namuyate. Hari Bol. Anyone else? Want to try? Huh? Kate? No? Okay.
I've just got one question, Abhishek, just in regards to how does one know the melody that each shloka has?
It's a very good question. There are different types of verses, and I remember one devotee actually did this study once. He said that there were some like 10 or so melodies that one could use. I never actually was able to find out what those melodies were. I tried. These are the two standard melodies that one uses. I mean, this one here for the smaller verse, and the one we recited last week for the longer verse. So these are the two typical verses that you will see. There's only a handful of verses in Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita that require slightly different melody. Like, for example, if you look at the Bhishma Dev's prayers in the 9th chapter of the first canto, then you will see that it follows a very different melody.
There's a longer one, there's even longer than last week's.
Well, it's not necessarily longer, it's an odd meter. It doesn't fit necessarily with the same melody. The other one is the Brahma Samhita melody. That's the third one. Those are much longer prayers. But then sometimes you get really long verses, as with the prayers of the Vedas personified in the 10th canto, and sometimes that requires a different meter. I really tried to find that, I couldn't find it. Okay. Other way around? Okay. So today we'll recite the other verse. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. So, does anybody remember the context of this verse? Thank you. Thank you.
It's in the group of verses that describe the qualities of the body characteristics of the spirit soul.
Yes. So, what was the specific characteristic described here?
Soul eternal, it never takes birth, never dies. It's eternal.
Yes. And in Prabhupada's purport, he comments on how the soul does not undergo the 6 changes. Because neither in the past or future does it ever change from its present state. In other words, the soul never undergoes any kind of transformation. Prabhupada lists the 6 kinds of transformations of the soul and says that it is always is situated in its own state. It doesn't have to be anything more than it is. It can never be anything more than it is. Neither can it be less than it ever is. Okay, so na jayate means birth. Jayate means birth. The word na means no, and it applies to each of the words in that first line. Na jayate, mriyate means death. And va means or. So na jayate mriyate va. It has neither birth nor death. Kadachin means at any time. Past, present, or future, Prabhupada translates it as. Then again, na, ayam. Na again means no. Ayam, this spirit soul. Bhutva, in the past. Bhavita, in the future. Will it ever come into existence? It is, sorry?
Sorry, I got a little bit lost on the first line.
Yep.
Najayate is no birth, and then the next 2 words, what did they mean? Sorry?
Na mriyate. So the word na applies to jayate and mriyate. So na jayate, no birth.
Yeah.
Na mriyate, no
No
death.
death, okay. At any time.
At any time, kadachin.
And then no spirit soul.
So the spirit soul has no birth or death at any time. That's the meaning of the first sentence. Nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuyaha. There was never a time when it did not exist, nor will there be a time in the future will it cease to be. Aja means unborn. Nitya means eternal. Shashvata means it's permanent. Prabhupada translates it as. Ayam Purano. Purana means this soul has existed at the very beginning of time, basically for all eternity. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Hanyate means it is not killed. When what? Hanyamane sharire. When the body is destroyed, hanyamane, soul itself is destroyed. Na hanyate. So, in Prabhupada's translation, he says, for the soul, there's neither birth nor death at any time. That's the first line. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. Past, present, and future. He is unborn, aja, eternal. I'm evil. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. He is not slain when the body is slain. Is that all right? Any phrases that are still confusing? Sorry. Now let's try and meditate on the phrases as we recite it. We'll go through the same process of each line being recited thrice. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः Both lines together, let's recite it as a group. न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः The third line. अजो नित्या शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो अजो नित्या शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो अजो नित्या शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो Fourth line. न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे 3 and 4 together. Let's recite it as a group. Try and construct it into a sentence in your mind, using each phrase as an object of meditation. Ajo nitya shashvato yam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Ajo nitya shashvato yam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Ajo nitya shashvato yam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Was everyone able to meditate on the meaning? Was it going too fast? Was it going a little fast? Okay. Let's go a little bit more slowly. Let's recite all 4 lines together. न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्या शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्या शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्या शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. Any takers? न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्या शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Haribol. Any other takers? Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. Nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyah. Ajo nitya shashvato yam purano. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Haribo. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. Nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyah. Ajo nitya shashvato yam purano. Na hanyate anyamane sharire. Haribol. Anyone else? Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. Nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyah. Ajo nitya shashvato yam purano. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Haribol. Last takers. Okay. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. Nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyah. Ajo nitya shashvato yam purano. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Haribol. Okay, so let's recite the verse together 3 times and then we will start the class. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. Nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyah. Ajo nitya shashvato yam purano. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. Nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyah. Ajo nitya shashvato yam purano. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. Nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyah. Ajo nitya shashvato yam purano. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Now, just as an application, if just you would like to try it, before you sit down for chanting over the coming week, recite this verse, meditate on its meaning and begin to chant. Let me know if your experience is slightly different. Okay, so let's start. So last time we stopped at text 30. Dehi nityam avadhyoyam dehe sarvasya bharata tasmad sarvani bhutani natvam sochitum arhasi. O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any living being. Prabhupada says, the Lord now concludes the chapter of instruction on the immutable spirit soul. Further down, though the soul is immortal, violence is not encouraged, but at the time of war it is not discouraged when there's actual need for it. So, the 2 points that have been mentioned throughout this section are, 1, act on the platform of the spirit soul. The spirit soul, when one acts on that platform through one's prescribed duties, one automatically gets happiness in this world as well as the next world. These were the 2 points made throughout this entire section of verses. But we discussed last week in terms of the stage of progression was 1, there was a sense of frustration. And from frustration, where there is piety, real piety, there is genuine inquiry. From the spiritual master. From this inquiry, we get knowledge of who I am. Now, who I am is in 2 categories. I am a spirit soul, and I am a part and parcel of Krishna. Now, this part and parcel component has not been discussed in these verses just as yet. This knowledge is called more confidential, MC, more confidential knowledge. The first part is called confidential knowledge. Because it is the fact that I'm a spirit soul is called confidential knowledge because it is only revealed to a worthy disciple who has this genuine sense of inquiry, who has the disposition, who has the mentality to be able to accept this knowledge. If this soul is so fortunate as to come to a Vaishnava spiritual master, he gets the second part that fills his sense of identity completely. But so far in the second chapter, this is the part that has been emphasized. I am a spirit soul. We also discussed last week that in this first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, what is emphasized more for the practitioner is by looking at the glory of the spirit soul being separate from matter. The emphasis tends to be on how one can separate oneself from matter rather than run to Krishna's arms. And this is for the specific class of practitioners who are frustrated with material existence, who are looking for something real. And for them, something real is basically merging into the spiritual Brahman. This is not a goal to be criticized. It is a valuable goal, but devotees have something much, much, much higher. We will come to this shortly. If you remember in the very, very first session, I'm not sure how many of you remember it, but we discussed an analogy of a sun. Does anybody remember this analogy? Yeah. No, that was much later.
Sun rays reflecting off the water or the mirror?
Yes, that's the one. So we have a lake. We have the sun's rays reflected in the lake. A single ray of light is reflected into a dark room. Does anybody remember what the sun represents? Paramatma or Krishna. Krishna. And the reflection of the sun, the full reflection of the sun, the spirit soul. And is the soul here in a state of liberation or in a state of conditioning? Condition. Sorry. Here it is the liberated soul. Because when you look at the sun, a full reflection of the sun, without any adulteration, like we say, man is made in the image of God, or we are a direct part and parcel of the Lord. That reflection of the sun in the water represents the pure jiva, or the liberated living entity. Now, a glimmer of light is often pushed into a dark room, and this is just from, you can say, like a village analogy or a commonly seen example. What this means is the dark room represents our conditioned existence, where there is a glimmer of our original spiritual nature which is visible. So this part here represents the conditioned living entity. The hint of one's true spiritual nature is seen in terms of the things that we desire, in terms of our not being satisfied with the items of this world. Imagine we try and fill our heart with, money, with facilities, with spouses, with family. None of that gets filled because the nature of the spirit soul is something different. We long for stability, we long for substance, for reality, we long for empathy, we value empathy, honesty, we value these principles which are close to the spirit soul. And that's how the nature of the spirit soul comes through, even in our conditioned existence. We sometimes have the saying, truth wins out, or we say that, these are generally commonly heard sayings, that people who follow righteousness will ultimately prevail. Most people have this understanding that if I do good in this world, then I will be happy. If I serve, I will be happy. If I give, it is better than taking. Because these are the qualities of the spirit soul. And the fact that people recognize these principles, even though we're all in a conditioned state of existence, it shows that this glimmer of our original spiritual nature is still represented in our conditioned state. But the journey from this darkened room to this state is the topic of chapters 2 through to 6 in the Bhagavad Gita. The entire set of chapters talks about this journey. Not so much about this journey here, because this is automatic. You'll see that in the 6th chapter, there's practically a difference of a single verse. The practitioner realizes his original spiritual nature, and then the next verse says he sees Paramatma, or he sees the Lord. Because when he recognizes his own spiritual existence, his mind automatically turns to the supreme spiritual existence. And he realizes the supreme spiritual existence. Now this path, as he transits from here through to here, will now be the topic of our discussion. Remember this image. We will draw this image up throughout our discussion of the first 6 chapters. Can I rub this off? Okay. So far, I'm going to rub this part also off. I'm a part and parcel of Krishna. Let's focus on what we have learned so far. So I am now a pure spirit soul, completely different from matter. And if we summarize the qualities of the spirit soul that we've seen in this chapter, what do we see? Can anybody give me a list? Okay, I'll supply the first one. Eternal. Unborn. Cannot be slain. Primeval, meaning has always existed. Has always existed. Next. Cannot be dried. Cannot be dried, made wet. Cannot be burnt. Cannot be cut. Anything else? Can exist in every state of existence. And then? Blissful. Where was that in those verses? That didn't come directly through in the verses, right? I mean, yes, it is understood that the Atma is blissful, but yes. Meaning as soon as one understands that the spirit soul is completely separate from matter, the other one is the 6 transformations of the body are not there. Not there. Because the understanding is that misery comes from material existence. So the absence of that misery produces a natural state of blissful existence. But it is not the same thing as the blissful existence of devotees. But when a practitioner from the spiritual master comes to understand these qualities of the spirit soul, the automatic feeling they have is, how can I experience this nature? This full experience of the spirit soul. And this is a natural question, right? We are suffering, we go and ask a question, and the spiritual master tells us, actually, your original nature has got nothing to do with the situation you're in. You just have to understand who you are. Well, great. Now, how? That's the natural question. Because for those whose heart is attached or is connected to some sense of identity in this world, it is very difficult to experience that sense of who I actually am. If you have to be told, you're a spirit soul, okay, what does that mean? I mean, I still think I'm someone's wife, someone's husband, someone's children. I still have aspirations in life. What am I supposed to do with all of this? And because the realization that I'm spirit, I'm still going to suffer hunger, I still want to eat certain things. Actually, the real test of whether one is spiritually realized or not can be seen in how much one can control one's tongue. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that. Sorry, this one here? This one? Is not subject to the 6 transformations of the body. We still suffer hunger, thirst, sleep. We have so many varieties of disturbances associated with the body. And regardless of how much we push ourselves into isolation, we can never experience these qualities just in our current state right now. So the spiritual master, he prescribes a method to come here. And we threw out this name last time, Nishkama Karma Yoga. This process is not a state. It is not a state of existence. It is a sadhana. Another name for Nishkama Karma Yoga is also called Buddhi Yoga. And I'll explain why in a minute. Let me know when I can rub this whiteboard out completely. Can I rub it? Okay. So let's examine this phrase, Nishkama Karma Yoga. What does karma mean? Action? Okay. So karma means action. What kind of action? Does it refer to, for example, sweeping of the temple? Is that karma? Yeah, that's a loose translation. Karma actually means action related to the material body. Cleaning the temple or direct devotional service has got nothing to do with the body. It's to do with the spirit soul and one's eternal relationship with Krishna. But karma means action related to the material body. What does yoga mean? Union, connect. So it is connection with the Lord through activities of the body. What does kama mean? Desire. And nishkama? No desire. So it is without desire. But doesn't Prabhupada often say that the living entity has to have desires? Has anybody heard that before? If you remove desire from the living entity basically has no existence. Either the living entity has to be unconscious or in a state of sleep or something. The living entity always has to have desire. So what this means is without material desire. But this living entity still has a desire. What is the desire? To experience his original blissful nature. So this is the desire when performing Nishkama Karma Yoga. You can never actually be in a state of desireless activity. Sometimes in India people say, perform your duty without attachment. Actually, that phrase is a little bit misleading. What it means is perform your duty with the proper attachment. And thereby give up inferior attachment. That's what it really means. So when we say without material desire, when somebody has material desire, how does their intelligence work?
Towards the material desire, what I want to do more.
So it plans how we can actually get that activity done. So the intelligence, it analyzes objects around us. It analyzes how to pull things together or push things apart to get done what we want to get done. So is the intelligence going outwards or inwards? Outwards. So here it is, so material desire, intelligence going outwards. And so, because it's Nishkama Karma Yoga, we don't want this. And when one's desire is more internal development, the intelligence has to go inwards. So here, this person's intelligence is focused internally. And because this entire process depends on strong intelligence, the intelligence is focused on inner development rather than external development. Simple example, one can work for the money, or one can work to learn qualities. I'm working so that I become more responsible, more accountable, I'm dutiful. This is intelligence that is focused more inside. It is more introspective. So because it has to do with the intelligence, this process is also called Buddhi Yoga, a method of connecting to the Supreme Lord with the intelligence focused inwards. For what purpose? Remember, this person is attached, not detached, not yet pure. And what is the overriding purpose? Purification of heart. Or, another way to put it, to redirect his sense of I and mine away from identity with this world to Krishna.
So you've got in there two arrows there.
Which one?
The intelligence going outward.
Yes.
Intelligence going focused internally. You've got them both pointing.
Right. So Buddhi Yoga removes intelligence going outwards, it crosses it out, and draws it inwards, focuses it inwards. So it's a conscious attempt to do things for internal purification of heart, rather than focus on external results. to redirect his sense of I and mine. So when we say the purpose of Nishkama Karma Yoga is to purify the heart, purification of heart means to remove our sense of identity with this world and transfer it to Krishna. That's what purification means. Because a sense of I and mine has to exist in the living entity, always. Remember we discussed maybe last week or the week before how the living entity has to have a sense of dependence. That is his innate nature, which means sense of I and mine, wanting to belong to something. It cannot be removed, it has to be redirected. Any questions so far?
It has to be redirected to what?
Krishna. Now, the difference between this type of practitioner and our process is the strength of attachment to Krishna. These people, because their focus is liberation, ultimately their focus is liberation, their strength of attachment to Krishna is for the purpose of liberation. Our attachment to Krishna is for the purpose of a relationship. Therefore, it is much stronger, and this is automatic for us. But for these people, their focus is liberation. Therefore, they redirect their sense of I and mine to Krishna for the purpose of purifying their heart, for the purpose of being able to transcend material existence. So in that sense, because it is conditioned, and they're using, in some sense, that relationship with Krishna to get what they want, it is weaker. And it is less than bhakti. So it is karma yoga, but it is less than bhakti yoga. And when practiced properly, it can lead one to proper dependence on Krishna. By the way, this is not exactly our process, but this is a part of what the Bhagavad Gita states for these practitioners. Our aim from the very beginning is never liberation. But let us go through this and study the framework. We'll discuss the application of this section to the devotees after we discuss the framework. Any further questions here? Yes?
So, this depends completely on what kind of spiritual master we get.
Yes.
So, that is dependent on our previous karma? Or
No. Getting a spiritual master of any kind has got nothing to do with Maya's plan. But it is really when that sense of, remember we had frustration to genuine inquiry? When that genuine inquiry arises, Krishna seated within our heart sends us a spiritual master to satisfy that inquiry. And depending on the kind of piety we have accumulated, we are attracted either to a devotee or to those who emphasize liberation or principles of renunciation. Krishna fulfills our desire. Any further questions? This is really important to understand.
It moves more to the impersonal side.
Yes, it does. It does. Okay, let's move on. So, I want to clean this up a little bit. What can I clean up? I'm going to remove this. It is called Buddhi Yoga. Let's remove that. Let's remove this. And let's remove this. Now, when we speak about action related to the material body, action is split into 4 categories so that we can understand what sort of activity we can connect to Krishna. The first one is called daily activity. This is also called nitya karma. What are examples of daily activities? Waking up early in the morning, brushing our teeth, taking a bath, going to our job, taking prasad, cooking boga, All of these things are daily activities because they all have to do with the material body. Then you have occasional duties. This is in Sanskrit, it's called Nai Mitika karma. Examples of occasional duties include, when the child is born, you would have namkaran, like you would give the name to the child. That's a full ceremony in Vedic culture. Even the process of placing a child in the womb, the garbhadhana, that's an occasional duty. You would find that, you have the baby shower in Sanskrit, that's called Srimantam. That's also an occasional duty. It's done at certain points in time when it's appropriate and relevant. In Vedic culture, when the boy is ready to receive Vedic knowledge, they get the Gayatri thread. That is also an occasional duty. Or the funeral rites of a departed soul. That's also an occasional duty. Offering of, pinda, or offering of Vishnu Prasad, Krishna Prasad, to departed souls for their continued upliftment. This is called Shraddha in Vedic culture. That's also an occasional duty. So there are many duties in Vedic culture, daily and occasional. Then you have what is pleasurable activities.
You say that these activities were to connect to Krishna, or they're just general activities?
These are the categories of activities. We'll discuss what can be and cannot be connected to Krishna in a second. So now pleasurable activities in accordance with the scriptures. So for example, this could be when we come home, we spend time with family. This in Sanskrit is called kamya karma. And then the final one is prohibited activities. This is called vikarma in Sanskrit. Activities that are against the regulations of the scriptures. For example, a relationship outside of marriage. That's a prohibited activity. Now, which of these activities are possible to connect with Krishna? What about vikarma, prohibited activities? Is that possible to connect? No. Actually, Jiva Goswami says the way to connect prohibited activities is through repentance. But on a day-to-day basis, these activities cannot directly be connected. Pleasurable activities? Well, yes and no. At some level, you can connect it. In fact, you can definitely connect it. But in Nishkama Karma Yoga, this is not directly the focus of their activities. I mean, they do it, but it's more, they don't directly try to connect that to Krishna. The majority of the day is occupied in daily and occasional duties. And this is what they connect to Krishna. Now we're going to discuss an example of a daily activity. For example, their work. And we will see how, or even eating, we will see how this is to be connected to Krishna. Is this categorization clear? Any questions? Can I rub it off?
So, in occasional duties, can we call as the samskaras?
Yeah, you can call it samskaras, but Shraddha is not exactly a samskara, right?
It's the last part.
That's not, no, Shraddha is the annual offering.
Oh, Shraddha.
Shraddha, yeah. The funeral rites, yes, that's a samskara. Yeah. But yes, marriage, garbhadhana, or srimantam, all of these are part of occasional duties. The upanayinam also, that's a samskara, and that's an occasional duty. Can I rub this off? Okay. So now let's take an example of a daily duty or a nitya karma that is connected to Krishna. Let's take an easy example, eating. Now, for the sake, this analysis is actually conducted in the 18th chapter, where Krishna explains this in this detail. Let us go through a simplified version of this now. In any activity, there is the doer of the activity, there is the activity itself, and how it is done. Now let's look at the activity. Let the activity be eating. If I eat meat, what mode of nature is that in? Ignorance. So if I eat meat, can I connect that to Krishna? Now, if I eat something that is too salty, too spicy, too sweet, which mode of nature is that in? Passion. Anything in excess is in passion. Is this easy to connect to Krishna? Why is this hard to connect to Krishna? Or why is it hard to be introspective when I'm dealing with, I love spicy food, and I'm just going to eat spicy food all the time? Why is this hard to connect? Because what is Buddhi Yoga? Is it intelligence directed outwards or internally? Internally. So which mode of nature is actually the best suited for that internal cultivation? The mode of goodness. So then what is activity or what is eating like? What sort of food would one eat in the mode of goodness? That's actually above the mode of goodness.
So that means spice is put in the prasadam. That's how Bhakti Krishna is in the mode of goodness above.
Then you'll be performing devotional service with personal desire. That becomes mixed bhakti. But anyway, when it comes to the mode of goodness, it is balanced, it increases one's life, it is satisfying, it is fulfilling, it is neither too much nor too little. The key word is balance. And of course, it is purely vegetarian. But what has been established, of course, is that the mode of goodness has to be there. Now let's look at how. If I eat looking at the phone all the time, which mode of nature is that in?
Ignorance.
Why is it ignorance rather than passion?
Because you're not even paying attention to
You're not paying attention. The mind that is distracted, that is unconscious of the activity, that is in ignorance. So unconscious eating. Eating while watching the TV, eating while reading a book, eating while looking at the phone. All of this is in the mode of passion. In the mode of ignorance. What would you say to someone who's just rushing, who's just eating on the fly? That's the mode of passion. So fast eating or basically that's in the mode of passion. How easy is this to cultivate for the purpose of internal introspection or internal purification of heart? Why do people eat this fast anyway?
Because they're like rushing on to the next thing. It's like when you see people eating driving, it's like they're just rushing to get to work or they're just trying to just get it in.
Yes.
And also you can't digest food properly when you eat it like that.
No.
And you can't drive properly either. It's like,
you get diseases and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So it is practically very difficult if one's mind is actually going inwards, or if one wants one's mind to go inwards, one has to reduce the effects of passion and ignorance in one's life and cultivate goodness. So this is, one is not taking too long or too little time. One takes the right amount of time. Do you know what the right amount of time is for prasadam, by the way, in one meal?
Is it Prabhupada used to take 45 minutes?
Prabhupada used to take about 40-45 minutes, yes.
Yeah.
He used to eat slowly, deliberately, focusing on tasting every aspect of prasadam.
Properly, not just when you see people when they're
Yes.
rushing, they don't even chew.
They don't chew.
Like, so he's 45 minutes used to sit chew. I actually watched the video of him eating once.
Yeah.
Just to see how...
Prabhupada is very deliberate, and there was nobody else there
Yes.
at the time. Now, devotees, of course, they come together for prasadam, and we see that also in Chaitanya Charitamrita, so that's also okay. But the focus is still on honoring prasadam. But in the mode of goodness, one does not take too much time or too little time. One Ayurvedic doctor told me you should take about 25 minutes for your prasadam. That's.
What about giving, where you're sharing a meal with your family?
Yes.
So be grateful for the food you're about to eat. Is that part of that?
Yes, actually that's better than this, and I'll show you how it is connected.
Just going back to the point about the TV being the mode of ignorance, we have a bit of a culture in ISKCON,
Yes.
like that there's like TV with kirtans, or even here sometimes you see Prabhupada following Prabhupada's videos. Is that like similar to that? Or that's...
It depends on what style of kirtan. If it's that kind of kirtan, then it's really going to disturb the mind from its focus on prasadam. As much as hearing kirtan is seva, honoring prasadam is also seva. So kirtan that is melodious, that is soothing, that allows one to focus on prasadam, or focus on a relationship with the Vaishnavas one is sharing prasadam with, is wonderful. And of course, even conversation with Vaishnavas at that time, there's a saying in Bengali, one cannot digest prasadam if you don't have topics of politics involved. So during prasadam, you'll find devotees sometimes discussing current affairs, politics, news items. This could be passion or ignorance, but it's not ideal. Topic should be such that it aids digestion, it is soothing, it is pleasing to the ear, so one doesn't laugh too hard, have a stand-up comedy routine while taking prasadam, or be arguing while taking prasadam. It's the proper time to allow the mind to just experience affection among the different family members, and then honor prasadam in that way. So, again, the key word is balance, harmony, characteristics of goodness. And then what about the person himself? Should this person really be focusing on, this is food that I want to eat and I just love to eat it? What mode of nature is that? Passion? Because again, the desires are focused there. Yes, it is food that should be tasty. What are the characteristics of food? Yes, we're talking about food, but the person should be looking to relish prasadam. But what should be their mood in eating prasadam? Gratitude, that was the point you were making. If someone eats with gratitude, with appreciation for what they have, is that in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance? Goodness. If one says, I don't like this kind of food and, it's so disgusting, or one has, these kind of moods in one's prasadam, is that goodness, passion, or ignorance? Passion. But the thing is that which one is easy to cultivate for internal introspection, internal purification of heart? Again, goodness. So when the person himself is in the mode of goodness, of course, for prasadam, devotees think I'm actually tasting Krishna's saliva, and that's beyond the mode of goodness. When you have goodness here, and the food is in goodness, what is the outcome of that activity, that karma of eating food? What is the result? It's actually goodness. If people eat fiery food, they eat it fast, and they're just thinking, I have to get to the next activity, what will be the result of what they do? Passion. So here's the key concept. Any activity can be broken down in the 18th chapters mentioned into 5 components. The doer, the method of performing the activity itself. Added here is their consciousness or intelligence, and here the determination in performing the activity. We don't have to go into those details now. We'll do it in the 18th chapter. But the point here being made is, if the components of one's activity are in the mode of goodness, the result is goodness. If it's in passion, the result is passion. If it is ignorance, the result is likely to be ignorance. Now here's the question. Is any of this transcendental? No, it's not. So how can something that's not transcendental give one a transcendental result? By offering to Krishna. And so Baladev Vidyabhushan says that this offering to Krishna can even be within one's mind. But one says, of course, the food itself has to be offered. That will be mentioned, that will be mentioned in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. But offering the activity within one's mind, at least, Krishna, may this please be satisfying to you. It can be done before the activity, it can be done after the activity, but Krishna, may my day be pleasing to you. Krishna, may this day that I've gone through, may it have been pleasing to you. Is it better to do it before or after? Before. But when one offers it, I'll describe this in a second. When one offers the activity to Krishna, what happens in one's consciousness? Let me give you an analogy. My grandfather was a botanist. He used to teach in a university. He was a professor of botany. He would have PhD students who would be working on various theses. They would write their thesis and dedicate the thesis to my grandfather. We would like to thank Professor N. Ramaya for his guidance, his affection, and his care of us during these last 3 to 4 years. What do you think the result is when they dedicate the thesis to their professor? What happens to their relationship?
Well, they're honouring their teacher.
Yes.
They wouldn't have been able to write the paper without his
Yes.
kind of coaching them or giving them the knowledge and helping them.
Yes. So what happens to their feelings for their professor when they explicitly dedicate their work?
It's like giving the ultimate honours.
Sorry?
It's like giving the ultimate honours to him, isn't it?
But internally, how do they, does that...
Is it humbling? Because it's not like saying, I've done this all on my own, I did it with the help of someone else.
Does it increase their attachment or reduce their attachment? Increase it. For someone who doesn't dedicate it, what happens to their, in their mind? Do they become more focused on the results of their activity rather than pleasing the person they're doing it for?
Definitely. Because it would be about furthering maybe their own image, or like, oh, look at this paper I've written.
Yes.
Might be a bit of an ego exercise.
It'll be more oriented in that direction, right?
Yeah.
So this is the key element that makes this entire process transcendental and make it work. When a person performs this activity as close to the mode of goodness as possible in its various categories, and offers it even in one's mind to Krishna, then one develops a sense of affection for, a sense of regard, a sense of friendship for Krishna. What is happening here? My sense of identity, I and mine, is being transferred from things of this world to Krishna, is it not? And this is less direct than, for example, when we chant Krishna's names or when we're directly involved in devotional service. It is less, but it is sufficient for liberation. It is sufficient to purify the heart. This could also be called, in this example, saying grace. Sorry. Here, this is like saying grace. But this is sufficient to give us enough identification with the Lord to avoid seeking satisfaction in things of this world for our personal taste, our personal development from an external perspective. And because our sense of identity transfers from here through to Krishna, gradually in that picture we had the sun, the full reflection, and a ray of light. As they practice this, their heart is purified and they become more and more detached from things of this world and more attached to Krishna. Is this process clear?
Just, I have a question. How can we make our eat? I want to know like a solution to, obviously, I'm always running late and I always just want to eat because there's so much to do. It's like my focus is on, because it's just, I have to hurry. So how can I inculcate in myself that I just relax and eat and honor prasadam nicely so that Krishna is pleased? How can I bring that?
I think the answer is kind of supplied there, it's pleasing to Krishna. I mean, if one has sufficient desire to please Krishna, then one would naturally want to connect with him regardless of what we do. Sometimes I found in myself, it's been like only this is service, and so I have to rush from here to there. But for example, and this is actually an example of this in a devotee's life, he was driving His Holiness Indradumna Swami from one place to another, and he was thinking this driving is just a waste of time, so he needs to memorize Bhagavad Gita verses. So while he was driving, on his dashboard, he had a Bhagavad Gita verse, and he was just looking at it and looking up, looking at it, looking up. And then at one point, he had to swerve to avoid another car. And Maharaj said, put that down, drive, this is your service. If we are able to see everything as being service, then we are able to give everything its quality time. There's another part to this. When I was in the brahmachari ashram, there was a brahmachari who was involved in like 9, 10, 11 services. He was rushing from here to here to here to here. And we were all praising him. It was like, you like service so much. Who else would say this? You know what his counselor told him? This is just a sex desire coming out.
This is just a
Sex desire coming out. Why did he say that?
Because getting a high from doing the services, but not the actual.
Well, the mode of passion which produces that sex desire, instead of going to the sex desire, its sense of achievement, its sense of control, its sense of enjoyment comes from taking on. Yes, I am controlling so many services. I'm doing so much. I am doing so much. So this, when one tends to do too much, or when one tends to do things in a very rash way, can be one of these two things. That either I'm not able to see the things that I'm doing as service, or it is actually the sex desire which is manifesting in that way. So when one understands this and one starts to dedicate every chunk of one's day to Krishna, one will naturally slow down. You're already attending the morning program, I think, pretty much, right? At home or here. But the other part that was emphasized to us is if someone follows the morning program, either here or in the temple, one's mind naturally comes into goodness. So this is for devotees.
So what about our desire for recognition, acknowledgement? You want to be people to acknowledge your service.
And that's wonderful.
You don't want to be ignored. No one wants to be ignored or not given the credit.
But devotees also want that in Vrindavan. Like, they want to please Krishna. When Krishna says, I love this prasadam. So when Radharani and the gopis would cook for Krishna, they would just be watching on the side like this, to see if Krishna was pleased with the prasadam. And then, Krishna knew that they were watching. So he would take something that was really tasty, cooked by Radharani. He would eat and go, poof. And then she would feel like, something here. So wanting to be appreciated is not wrong. But wanting to be appreciated by the right person for the right thing, that is more important. There are two parts to this. If one is glorified genuinely, not just lip service, but by the Vaishnavas or by the spiritual master, then that is wonderful. If one wants to be glorified by people who are not connected to bhakti, that's an issue. Because then that means one is cultivating values along what they desire, not what devotees desire. That's the first part. The second part is, even among the devotees, how we appreciate each other has to change. Sometimes when devotees come and distribute books, we may go before Radha Gopinath and say, so-and-so individual distributed, 30 Mahabig books, Haribol! And Mridangas will break out and the Kardas will break out. And this devotee distributed one small book, Haribol! And it's like, but they've spent the same amount of time on the street. So which should be glorified, their effort or their result? If we inculcate a value of not glorifying skills and results, but we glorify their effort and their desire to please Krishna and how the devotees are pleased with their service, then they are being appreciated for the right thing. Because then with that culture, what you end up doing is, oh Prabhu, you can say, Prabhu, your voice is so wonderful. And that person thinks, yes, I'm a good voice. That's his sense of identity. But if you say, Prabhu, the Vaishnavas felt inspired to chant Krishna's names when you were chanting, how does it make this devotee feel? I need to focus on my chanting, and I could please the Vaishnavas. So that becomes their sense of value. Appreciation is not wrong. Appreciation for the right thing is important. Okay, but is this part okay? Any more questions here?
So those practicing Nishkama Karma Yoga, what do they do? Are they offering their food?
Yes, they do. They do. Everything has to be connected to Krishna. And the Bhagavad Gita is ultimately completely theistic. There are people who will, in India, they will have a phrase on buses, perform your prescribed duty, they will say. Well, by that, what they mean is, work for your nation, work for your company, work for your family. What they miss out on is why you should work. And because the second sentence of the verse they're quoting is, do not be attached to your results. And that part they miss out on. But everything here is connected to Krishna. And the fundamental thing that makes it transcendental is the offering, because that changes our sense of identity from this world to Krishna. So this is a complete understanding of Nishkama Karma Yoga. It is a method of connecting to Krishna through our prescribed duties. What do I mean by prescribed duties? Duties accorded to us according to our life situation and our nature. So we may be a parent, that there are prescribed duties associated with being a parent. My nature is that I naturally work as a doctor or as a finance officer or as a nurse or what have you, or as a teacher. But I work along with that nature, not against my nature. What happens if I work against my nature? I cannot, for example, my mind tends to be computational in its nature. I can't work as a plumber. What do you think is going to happen if I work as a plumber?
You'll be very unhappy.
My mind will be distracted, right? So how am I going to work in goodness? How am I going to be absorbed in my work? I can't be. So Nishkama Karma Yoga means you work alongside your nature, because that is how you can easily be absorbed in your activity and perform it as in such a way that it becomes fit for offering to Krishna. And that's Nishkama Karma Yoga, a method of connecting to Krishna for the purpose of internal purification of heart by dedicating the activities to Krishna, by bringing the activities to the mode of goodness and making it fit for offering to Krishna.
Can I ask a question? In our class last week, I can't remember which Prabhu it was, he said that...
Sorry, who said?
Prabhu was saying it was giving the class. If
Yes.
someone glorifies you for your service, he's actually giving you poison in a way, because it can feed your pride. And the reason I picked up on it was because me and another person had done a service in the temple. We worked really hard, and then he got glorified, and everyone just kind of ignored me, and I felt a little bit hurt. And I spoke to my mentor about it, and she said, you don't need people to notice what you did, because Krishna knows what you did, your guru knows what you did. And that was enough for me, and that's what I just tell myself now, that I don't need people to say well done. But
Yeah.
it's just, I picked up on this one sentence he said in the class. He said, if someone glorifies you for doing service, they're actually giving you poison, because you'll become attached to being glorified for doing service rather than doing it for the right reasons. So I got that squashed in me early.
Oh, okay. That is true to the extent that the glorification is done incorrectly. And it's also true to the extent that it just causes us to think of, to feel pride in our skills or our abilities. But where that appreciation produces an increased sense of affection for the Vaishnavas and an increased sense of value that, yes, my value is in pleasing the Vaishnavas,
I suppose that's
it's wonderful.
human, isn't it? You just want
And that's the thing. I mean, even Krishna does it for his devotees. In that pastime, Radharani was waiting. How is Krishna? Does he like the prasadam or not? And the devotees would give their entire life to Prabhupada for his one smile. Prabhupada would say, "Thank you very much," and they would take that "thank you very much." That would be the only phrase that Prabhupada might have spoken to them their entire life, and they would take that, and that's their entire life. My life is now successful. Appreciation is one of the soul's essential needs, but from the right people for the right reasons.
Yeah, because I mean, so much so that I even had a whole mentoring session about it, because I felt so...
It's misunderstood.
Why is this person getting like so much recognition, and I did so much work, and I felt like, you know what I mean? It was just, it brought up some feelings.
I understand that part. But then when one is not recognized, then one just goes to Gopinath and says, my dear Lord, please, may you be pleased with this service. And one feels that connection that way. But it is our part to do our side. But when we're talking about a community culture, then this is the proper culture to establish. In Chowpatty, actually, there was a devotee who had distributed I think several hundreds of books in one day. And the devotee was reading out the scores. He forgot. He was a Grihastha devotee. The distributor was a brahmachari. The person who was reading out the scores forgot to read this individual score. He was very upset. You can imagine. And he just went up to this other Grihastha devotee and said, Prabhu, you forgot to read my score. I really felt bad. And he spoke at some length. This Grihastha devotee was very disturbed. He went to Gaurang Prabhu, who was the vice president of Chowpatty, and he said, Prabhu, this brahmachari is very attached. He's wanting this service. He seems he wants glorification. Just Gaurang Prabhu cut him off. He said, stop talking high philosophy. He has done something really good. He deserves to be glorified. You should have read out his name. The fault is yours, not his. And then he went on to say that he's such a capable person, he could be seeking appreciation everywhere outside. But he's seeking appreciation here, and that is wonderful. You should glorify the devotees for the right thing at the right time. In Chowpatty, when it's a brahmachari's birthday, all the brahmacharis come together and they together glorify the devotee for all the services that they've done during the year. At some stage, a devotee feels like, I don't need it anymore. And if I just see that they're pleased, they don't even have to be verbal about it. I can see the Vaishnavas are pleased. I can see my spiritual masters pleased. I can see Gopinath is pleased. That is enough for me. But we as people need appreciation. And it is childish, immature to not give it when it is properly due. Yeah. Actually, Prabhupada said Krishna consciousness is common sense. I mean, even when we train children through proper glorification, the proper chastisement, you raise a child. Because, people work with incentives and things that cause them discomfort. These are the two elements in raising children.
Is it like if you take something away or you give them a reward, is that what you mean? Like if you give them a star chart or something for doing something?
But it depends on how you set up that reward system. Yeah. But when for us, we do need a reward, but our reward doesn't have to be material. Yeah. It has to be something that brings us closer to the Vaishnavas, and that's perfectly wonderful.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So, okay. Now, before Krishna is going to describe Nishkama Karma Yoga, he's going to, in a string of verses, from 231 up to 238, he's going to incentivize Arjuna with material benefits. Now, his reason for doing this is not to suggest that Arjuna should work for material benefits. It doesn't make sense, right? In that chart, frustration, genuine inquiry, spiritual knowledge, how does it make sense to then go back and say, well, work for material gain? So the reason Krishna does this is that suppose someone is, for example, hesitating in performing their duty. You kind of give them a little bit of candy to say, if you do this, you get this. You make them fixed in performing their duty, which is required for their spiritual practice. As an example, when I was joining the ashram, our mentors would say, you don't even have to cook. You don't have to work. You get 3 hot meals in a day, which is more than anybody gets at home. Fresh chapati, fresh rice, different sabjis, feast prasadam, and you live in a palace, like a temple. Imagine if you have to live here. How much rent do you think you'd have to pay to live in a palace like this temple? A lot, right? But you have no responsibility. You can just focus on service. So isn't this kind of like material incentivization? And sometimes they would say the other side too. They would say, suppose you enter family life, you get frustrated with your partner, you have nowhere to go. You have to keep seeing that person maybe for the rest of your life. But if you come to the ashram, if you get frustrated with one person, there are at least 10 other people you can talk to. Now, is this a real reason to join the ashram? No. But is it an attractive proposition? I don't have to cook, I don't have to work, I don't have to do anything. Life is easy, all my material needs are taken care of. I have like-minded company, and we're all going together. So it's a material incentive to be fixed in a spiritual path. And that's what Krishna is going to do with Arjuna. Text 32. Yadrichaya chopapannam swargadvaram apavritam sukhina kshatriya partha labante yuddhamidrisham. Translation.
Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such exciting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of heavenly planets.
So, O Arjuna, if you happen, Kshatriyas are happy because if they die in battle, the heavenly planets, which are very hard to attain, they open out. Kshatriyas who die in battle go to the sun planet, a very highly situated heavenly planet. So here's Prabhupada's purport. The Kshatriya's duty is to protect the citizens from all kinds of difficulties, and for that reason he has to apply violence in suitable cases for law and order. Further down, considering all aspects, Arjuna had no reason to refrain from fighting. If he should conquer his enemies, he would enjoy the kingdom, and if he should die in the battle, he would be elevated to the heavenly planets, whose doors were wide open to him. Fighting would be for his benefit in either case. Text 33. Ata chetvam imam dharmyam sangramam na karishyasi tata swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. Translation.
If, however, you do not perform this religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duty and thus lose your reputation as a fighter.
So in the purport, Prabhupada points out that Arjuna had received so many accolades for his achievements, and he would lose that reputation, and Arjuna was thinking that he's going to incur sin if he fights. Krishna is saying you will incur sin if you do not fight.
So, when you say, according to the life situation and nature,
Yes.
and this is basically the duty of partner as Kshatriya,
Yes.
sometimes, in practical situation, parents say, oh no, don't go for this study because
Yes.
you won't get the marks for it.
Yes.
So how does that affect? Because your nature may not be
Yes.
and then you would be end up doing that.
Yes. So, in India it's typically like medicine and engineering. And I've actually seen instances in the ashram where you have boys who are not suited to engineering. Their parents force them there. They work really hard to get any kind of marks. And at the end of what they do, they work at a job that's not even paying them very much. The way to do it is astrologically, you look at the person's ascendant. The ascendant will give you that person's nature. So taking that nature into account, you look at the various professions that would set this person up for life financially and would be in accordance with their nature. And you can guide the child in that way.
I'd just like to add something to this. This is a true story. There were we used to do kirtan together back in India. And there was one girl and one boy in class 12. This boy was such an ecstatic devotee. We met him. He'd do so much kirtan and Mama will be coming to temple authorities. Please leave my son alone, let him study. But he'd be just dancing and every aarti he'd come. And this girl was just so much just studying and she wanted to crack medical exam and always droopy face, never coming to the temple. This guy was totally dependent. Oh, Jagannath will take care, Jagannath will take care. He cracked through the best. He got admission. This is just last
But
year.
that's actually not, this example wouldn't exactly fit in here, because for devotees, Prabhupada's point was always perform your prescribed duty.
He
Of course.
did. He was studying.
Okay,
He
that's okay.
cracked through the best. He's in the best university now. He was in the best mentorship, and they were telling him that you have to study, you have to get a job, you have to earn money. He's in the best university of India. Like, I'm forgetting the name of it, it's equivalent to IIT. And this girl failed the medical exam.
Okay.
And she just changed. that, oh, what am I going to do now commerce. But this guy was totally dependent on Krishna. I saw it with my own eyes, like it's a miracle.
Okay.
It's just amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go on. Text 34. Akirtim chapi bhutani kata yashyanti te vyayam sambhavitasya cha kirtir maranadati richyate. Translation.
People will always speak of your enemy, and for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death.
Arjuna's point to Krishna was that, but Bhishma and Drona will know why I've done this. And then Krishna said, but there'll be others like Karna and Duryodhana, and they have esteemed your name. And they will say, ha, look at Arjuna. He was scared of our military might, therefore he's run away. Such a coward. And they will pierce you with words that are even stronger than your being pierced with arrows. And that piercing will be worse for you than if you actually were to be killed on the battlefield. For a Kshatriya, you can kill them, and it's not a problem. They can tolerate an enormous amount of pain. You try and correct, or you try and question their potency, or you try and tell them that they are weak, and whew, everything kind of comes out of their, they become very angry. Text 35. Bayadranadu paratam mamsyante tvam maharata yesham cha tvam bahumato bhutva yasyasi lagavam. Translation.
The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant.
Lord Krishna continued to give his verdict to Arjuna. Do not think that the great generals like Duryodhana, Karna, and other contemporaries will think that you have left the battlefield out of compassion for your brothers and grandfather. They will think that you have left out of fear for your life, and thus their high estimation of your personality will go to hell. Text 36. Avachya vadamscha bahun vadishyanti tavahitaha nindantas tava samartyam takto dukkha taram nukim. Translation.
Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your ability. What could be more painful for you?
Text 37. Hato va prapsyasi swargam jitva va bhokshyase mahim tasmad uttishta kaunteya yuddhaya krita nishchaya. Translation.
O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up with determination and fight.
So this is the end of this section, where the incentivization for Arjuna to remain fixed on his duty, because remember, Krishna is now going to recommend worship of himself through the performance of prescribed duty. To fix Arjuna on prescribed duty, he has spoken these verses. Not that Arjuna should fight for the sake of fame, wealth, or anything else. Okay, so now here is Krishna's transition from working for personal benefit to working for purification of heart through that connection with Krishna. Text 38. Sukha dukke same kritva labha labhau jaya jaya tato yuddhaya yujyasva naivam papam avapsyasi. Translation.
Do not fight for the sake of fighting without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by doing so you shall never incur sin.
So sukha dukkha same, without considering happiness or distress, without considering labha alabha, things that you will gain or lose, or jaya ajaya, victory or defeat. Remaining equal to all of these circumstances which are external to you. Focus your intelligence within. Tato, in that way, yudhaya yujyasva. Engage in fighting for the sake of fighting as your duty. naivam papam avapsyasi, and you will not incur sinful reaction. Why is it that he will not incur sinful reaction?
Because you're doing your duty, it's your job.
Okay.
But because Krishna is telling you to do it.
When do you get sinful reaction? In other words, it is personal desire involved. So Arjuna, do not act because you want to fight. Act because I am telling you to fight. Act because this is the proper way for you as a spirit soul to develop, and for every one of these spirit souls to also develop. Purport. Lord Krishna now directly says that Arjuna should fight for the sake of fighting because he, Krishna, desires the battle. There is no consideration of happiness or distress, profit or gain, victory or defeat in the activities of Krishna consciousness. That everything should be performed for the sake of Krishna's transcendental consciousness, so there is no reaction to material activities. Text 39. Now this is the point where Krishna is going to say, what I have described to you as Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya Yoga again means a delineation of body and soul, or a delineation more specifically, more elaborately, of all the material elements so that one can find the spirit soul through these material elements, or inside of these material elements, and find the super soul. So Krishna has described that in a specific way from text 212 up to text 229 or 230. Now Krishna will say, I am now going to show you the same thing, exactly the same thing, in another form that you can actually apply in your present circumstance. Eshate bihita sankye buddhir yoge tva imam shuno buddhya yukto yaya parta karma bandham prahasyasi. Translation.
Thus far I have described this knowledge to you through analytical study. Now listen as I explain the method of working without fruitive results. O son of Partha, when you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from the bondage of works.
So look at the word for word very closely, or the Sanskrit very closely. Eshate, all this unto you, abhihita, I have already described it as Sankhya Yoga. What I have described to you as Sankhya, now, buddhir yoge tu imam shrunu. Now imam, here, shrunu, the same thing which is called buddhi yoga. And Prabhupada translates it as working without fruitive results, or nishkama karma yoga. Now what I've described to you as Sankhya yoga, here the same thing as buddhi yoga. Buddhya yukto yaya partha. Buddhya yukto. Yukto means engaging. If you engage your intelligence, your buddhya, if you engage your intelligence, buddhya yukto yaya partha, by yaya means by such engaging, partha, O son of Kunti, O son of Pritha, by engaging your intelligence in this way, yaya, karma bandham prahasyasi. Prahasyasi means you'll be released from. Your karma will be destroyed. You will never gain any sinful reactions. And as your karma is destroyed, what happens? Your bondage to this world is destroyed. Your sense of I and mine to this world is destroyed. And you come closer to your original nature as spirit soul. Karma bandham prahasyasi. All of this will be destroyed. Are there any questions about this verse? Now, for the next few verses, Prabhupada is going to give his purports on the level of pure bhakti. Now, this is an application. There are two explanations of this section. One, as traditionally it would be given, from Ramanuja to Madhvacharya to Baldevidya Bhushan, so on and so forth. And then there's another explanation, which is Lord Chaitanya's view of these verses. Prabhupada has given us Lord Chaitanya's view through his purports. We will examine this as an application, but first I want to take us through the framework so that we understand the traditional explanation and then understand Prabhupada's application for this section. So Buddhi Yoga means two things. One, it means Nishkama Karma Yoga. It also can mean pure bhakti, where the intelligence is connected to Krishna's will and desire. Now, Prabhupada in his purport will speak about the latter form of Buddhi Yoga, and he will quote 1010 in this purport. We will come to this purport shortly. I'm going to skip this purport for now and move on. But bear in mind that when Prabhupada is speaking about Buddhi Yoga here, it is different to the Buddhi Yoga that we've described for the reason that I just mentioned. The Buddhi Yoga definition here is Lord Chaitanya's definition, and it comes from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. Text 40. Neha bikrama nasosti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Translation.
In this universe, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from most dangerous type of fear.
So the first thing is this. If one is performing activities for one's own benefit, imagine if one is, for example, working to get a job. If I finish 1 year of my degree, what do I get? Do I get any kind of job, or do I get any kind of results in this world? Do unfinished things give me any fruit in this world? No, it doesn't. So the first point being made here is even a little amount of advancement. So even if I try to walk on the step of cultivating my inner identity towards my spirit soul, and the highest level of this is as a devotee of Krishna. But if I even walk in this direction, my advancement is preserved. Why is it preserved? Is there some mechanical law that is in place? That if I, work towards my spirit soul, it's somehow, captured in a DOS file or something, which then comes up in some way?
Is that to do with karma as well?
Is it a mechanical law, or is it just, is it
Law of nature then, isn't it?
the law of nature?
It's transcendental,
So who is actually making all this work? Krishna. So it's Krishna's heart. Krishna, any step that we take towards him, either from the point of view of having a relationship with Krishna to free ourselves, or even having a relationship with Krishna at the highest level, Krishna preserves what we have. And this is Krishna's heart that guarantees this result. The explanation that I just gave is Radhanath Swami's explanation. It's a beautiful explanation, sorry.
I'm just wondering, I've heard two different interpretations of what is the most dangerous type of fear. One of them being birth again in the material world.
Yeah.
One is like seeing Yamaraj.
Yeah.
What is Prabhupada talking about the most dangerous type of fear?
So in his purport, he doesn't mention that. But yes, I've also heard that more dangerous than death is one's next life, because it can be in any situation. But in the purport, Prabhupada gives example of Ajamil, that his situation was the most dangerous type of fear. His life had been completely, in some sense, sinful, and he was going to suffer an unlimited amount of sinful reaction. And who knows how many types of births in the future. But he was going to suffer. People who are sinful, they suffer a horrible death, generally. They suffer a lot in hellish planets, and they suffer in many species of life. Generally, Prabhupada would refer to all of this as being the greatest fear. But basically, you are in the 8,400,000 species of life. You're now as a human being. For some small amount of gratification, one can spend literally lifetimes after lifetimes through these 8,400,000 species. As I think Mataji was saying in a previous class, I eat beef, for example, just to taste it. That one morsel that I take is going to result in lifetimes of suffering. Is it worth it?
What if you ate meat before you became a devotee because you didn't know any better?
Krishna wipes it off. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja Aham tvam sarva papebhyo. I take care of it. Yeah. So Krishna protects any amount of advancement that one makes. We'll come back to this purport again. Text 41. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kuru nandana bahushaka hi anantascha buddhayo vyavasahinam. Translation.
Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Guru, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched.
So vyavasayat mika buddhir. Vyavasayat mika means their intelligence is one-pointed. Whereas those whose intelligence is kind of splayed out in this world, sometimes their intelligence will be like, I need to get this, I need to eat something, now I need to go and play basketball, now I need to go and work, now I need to do this. Their intelligence goes in different directions. It is not focused in a particular goal. It's not directed towards some aim. But for those who are practicing Buddhi Yoga, regardless of what they do, their intelligence is in a one-pointed way directed towards the purification of their heart. And so therefore, whatever they do, they connect it to Krishna, they try and perform it in the mode of goodness as much as they can, and they're focused on awakening their real identity and nature. So therefore, their intelligence is one-pointed. No matter what they do, actually their goal and direction is one. Whereas those who, of course, have multi-layered intelligence, who don't have that inner direction, sometimes their intelligence will take them towards this experience and that experience and this experience, and it's completely splayed out. Even the most passionate of people will have some days where, 15, 16 hours they may be practicing their sport, for example. But then you get the time when they just play video games or they rest. Most athletes, for example, in the time they are preparing, they're taking off from their sport, they usually tend to follow other sports or they spend time with their family. It's not directed all in one way. For them, it's just wherever their mind wants to go. So it is many-branched. So vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha. Eka means in one direction, Kuru Nandana. Bahu shaka. Shaka means branched. Bahu means many-branched. He anantas. Anantas means it's practically unlimited. The directions in which their branches can go are unlimited. Buddhayo, their intelligence. Avyavasayinam, for those who are not directed internally in this way. I remember when I was in Mayapur, I was studying Bhakti Shastri, and if I didn't go to the Mahaprasadam stall at 7 in the morning, I would find, I'd be thinking of that pizza, Mahaprasadam pizza during the day. And sometimes I'd go out of my way like 1.5 kilometers or 2 kilometers just to get that hot pizza. And it would be like, my study time would just 1 hour or something would be wasted. And then I'd feel guilty afterwards. But in any case, this is played out intelligence. But in the mode of goodness, this is not so. Everything is directed towards some purpose. And a lot of what Prabhupada wanted to teach us was live life with a sense of purpose. Yes, there will be times when one relaxes, and Prabhupada relaxed. He would go for a walk, he would engage in light-hearted conversation. But his life was focused in some way. And so our life has a purpose, it has a goal. So not just to be splayed out. But with that sense of a goal, if we see our entire life being structured around that goal, then we find that even though our lifespan is so short, we may live for 70, 80, or even less in terms of number of years. But it's still long enough for us to achieve so much. And if we have direction every day, we find that our day opens up and the amount of time that we have seems to expand. Has anyone had this experience? It's only when people say, I don't have enough time, it means two things. Actually, just one thing. Their consciousness is just not focused. They're not in the present. They're not directing their activities towards something. In the mode of ignorance, the time seems to pass by and the day is over even before you know it. In the mode of passion, you start to feel like there's not enough time to do the things I want to do. In the mode of goodness, time seems to expand. because everything is directed, focused, and you don't waste time. Everything has a sense of purpose. And in the 3rd chapter, Prabhupada actually points out, in one purport he says, only one who is perfectly Krishna conscious can perform his duties as if in military discipline, because their consciousness is so one-pointed, it's fixed, one after another, and in one day they can do more than anyone could have conceived of doing within even a week or longer. And the best example of this is Tamal Krishna Maharaj. Even his godbrothers would say, we have never seen anybody whose intelligence is so intensely focused that he can just do so much. He would just take so many projects, and he was expert at getting things done. When I heard this, I started to read about Tamal Krishna Maharaj to see how I could get that quality myself. I wasn't very successful, but he had that intense focus and ability. All right. Now, text 42, 43. Arjuna is going to ask the question, well, but people in general read the Vedas, right? So why can't they come to the same conclusion that you're expressing? That life has a sense of direction, life has a sense of purpose. Now Krishna is going to say, because these practitioners who read these various types of Vedic literature have a fault in their heart, their minds are attracted to the sections of the Vedas that prescribe material benefits. And therefore, they never acquire the same fixedness of mind. This is carried across 3 verses, 42, 43, 44. Let's read these two, 42, 43. Yam imam pushpitam vacham pravadantya vipaschitaha vedavada rata parta nanyad astiti vadinaha kamatmana swargapara janma karma phala pradam kriya vishesha bahulam bhogaishvarya gatim prati. Translation.
Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, result in good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this.
Okay, so these Veda Vada Rata, Prabhupada translates this as supposed followers of the Vedas, if you look at the word for word. So they are, Rata means attracted to or attached to. Rati means that sense of attraction. But they're apparently attracted to the Vedas, even though they understand nothing about them. Veda Vada Rata, supposed followers of the Vedas. Veda Vada, Vada means talk, the words of the Vedas. They'll quote this verse and that verse and this verse, and it appears like they're very knowledgeable. It appears like they are very attached to the Vedic wisdom. But actually, they are only attracted to what? Yam imam pushpitam vacham. The pushpitam vacham, flowery words. Pushpita means flower. Flowery words. What kind of flowery words are they? Kamatmana swargapara. Swargapara, those parts of the Vedas that say you just have to follow Chaturmasya and you can drink the Soma Ras in the heavenly planets. Or like statements that we hear commonly, you perform something for Allah, you get how many is it? 76, 77 odd virgins in heaven? Whatever it might be. But these are the kind of words they're attracted to. And they say, if you look at the last line of the first verse, Na anyad asti, it means asti means there is, na anyad, there's nothing else. Anyad means something else. Na anyad asti, they say. In all of the Vedas, there's nothing else. The Vedas speak about material benefits for pious activities. And one's life, one has to be as happy as possible, one has to get as much material benefit as one can, and so therefore, one should just follow these words of the Vedas. Perform rituals and austerities to get this kind of benefit. What is the fault in their heart? Look at the first word of the second verse. Kama atmana. Their heart is filled with kama, or personal desire. Therefore, they see through their consciousness. They don't see what the Vedas are actually recommending or why the Vedas are recommending this. But because their heart is filled with desire, there's a filter in their mind, and it filters only those sections of the Vedas that describe material benefit. Kamatmana swargapara janma karma phala pradam, resulting in good janma, good birth, good karma, phala pradam. It gives this kind of fruit. Kriya vishesha bahulam. Kriya vishesha. Kriya means they perform. Vishesha means like specific or extraordinary. They perform these very elaborate sacrifices. Bahulam, many such sacrifices. Bhoga aishwarya gatim prati. Prati means they go towards. But bhoga means enjoyment. Aishwarya means wealth. To go towards enjoyment and wealth. And this is their entire life. Their fault in their heart is their own desire for gratification. Kamatmana. So in Prabhupada's purport, he will say, people in general are not very intelligent, and due to their ignorance, they are mostly attached to the fruitive activities recommended in the Karmakanda portions of the Vedas. They do not want anything more than sense gratificatory proposals for enjoying life in heaven, where wine and women are available and material opulence is very common. In the Vedas, many sacrifices are recommended for elevation to the heavenly planets, especially the Jyotishtoma sacrifices. In fact, it is stated that anyone desiring elevation to heavenly planets must perform these sacrifices, and men with a poor fund of knowledge think that this is the whole purpose of Vedic wisdom. It is very difficult for such inexperienced persons to be situated in the determined action of Krishna consciousness, as fools are attached to the flowers of poisonous trees without knowing the results of such attractions. Unenlightened men are similarly attracted by such heavenly opulence and the sense enjoyment thereof. In the Karmakanda section of the Vedas, it is said, Apama somam amrita abhuma and akshayam ha vai chaturmasya yajina sukritam bhavati. In other words, those who perform the 4-month penances become eligible to drink the somaras beverages to become immortal and happy forever. Even on this earth, some are very eager to have somaras to become strong and fit to enjoy sense gratification. Such persons have no faith in liberation from material bondage, and they're very much attracted to the pompous ceremonies of Vedic sacrifices. They are generally sensual, and they do not want anything other than the heavenly pleasures of life. It is understood that there are gardens called Nanda Kanana, in which there is good opportunity for association with angelic beautiful women and having a profuse supply of somaras wine. Does anybody know what somaras is, by the way? It's a specific beverage made in the heavenly planets. It is inaccessible to people staying here. Through it, your body becomes extremely vital, extremely strong, and because Prabhupada would say in the moon planet it is very cold. So the somaras gives you great internal body heat, circulation. It makes men very virile, so they can enjoy sex pleasure for a very, very long period of time. So therefore Prabhupada would say people thirst for the somaras even in this world. And in Vedic culture, you would get people who would want somaras eagerly to enjoy life. Now, of course, people substitute that with Viagra and other such things, but this is the Vedic way of supplying Viagra and any other such enhancing devices. Of course, it's much more than that. Text 44. Bhogaishvarya prasaktanam taya parita chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhavna vidhiyate. Translation.
In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination of devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place.
Right. So this completes the argument of the previous 2 verses. Because of the fault in their heart of sense enjoyment, which is why they go to the Vedas and seek only those things that emphasize material enjoyment, therefore, they never achieve that fixedness, that one-pointedness of mind that a practitioner who is trying to cultivate internal purification of heart is able to achieve. Vyavasayatmika buddhir. They don't achieve this vyavasayatmika buddhir. Samadhavna vidhiyate. Their mind is never focused, it is never absorbed. It is always played out, it is always distracted. Taya aparita chetasam. Chetasam means their consciousness. Aparita means it's covered. Their consciousness is covered with bhoga and aishwarya, enjoyment and wealth. You know what the term Hiranyakashipu means?
Gold soft bed.
Gold and soft bed. And Hiranyakashipu is the principal example of such an individual. Gold, money, and soft bed, woman.
That black and white, I mean, you've got different degrees of consciousness and different phases of life. It seems quite,
Blanket?
Yeah, like a blanket word, like either you're fixed in your determination to be Krishna conscious, or you have some other things that are your conditioning, or some other things that are taking you away from your goal. I mean, I know it's saying that you need to put a purpose in a goal, and that's what you need to fix, anchor on your mind to help you to overcome that. But it seems it's
in black and white.
Yeah.
This doesn't apply to devotees, by the way. See, for devotees, there's an example given in Shastra. Can I rub this off? Shri Radha Gopinath ki Jai. So there's an example given in Shastra, and this comes out in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. For materialists, when they engage with sense objects, that engaging with the sense objects is compared to being bitten by a serpent with poisonous fangs. I'm sorry, I'm just a horrible drawer. So I won't draw a tilak, but it's because from these fangs spreads poison. And what does the poison typically do? Spreads where? To the heart. So the poison goes to the heart and kills one. Similarly, sense enjoyment, when it's contacted by someone who's a materialist, it spreads the poison of material desire and contaminates their heart with material desire. Excuse me, sorry, can we just keep quiet, please? It spreads the poison of material desire and it contaminates the heart with material desire. And it kills the spiritual nature of the individual. But for a devotee, Prabodhananda Saraswati says, it is like being bitten by a snake without fangs. There's no poison that is spread. Why? Because the heart is filled with nectar. And the moment any such desire comes in, the nectar is the desire and attraction to Krishna. And in heart of hearts, devotees know that they actually want to be attracted to Krishna. So it comes to their heart and goes away. And rather, in their heart, they experience a different kind of transformation. What they experience is, oh, I was just in that kirtan yesterday. I was just listening to that wonderful class. And why did I do this? Why did I want to do this? I'm just wasting my time, wasting my consciousness. And every one of us has experienced this. It produces a deeper desire for bhakti. An example of this is, in the Kaliya pastime, there was one tree, I think it was a Kadamba tree, that Krishna jumped off into the Yamuna river. All the other trees were dead. But in this tree, Garuda had placed nectar for this tree to survive. Similarly, bhakti is that nectar. And once bhakti is injected into the heart, by the Vaishnava's grace and by the spiritual master's grace, the heart can never actually be contaminated. It never goes away. And so one may go back and forth, but one ends up here. So the experience of devotees is different. But these people here, remember the fault in their heart is kama atmana. Atmana means their heart, their soul. But atmana here means their mind, atmana also means their heart. So in their heart, they don't have nectar like devotees do. They have poison. And so therefore, for them it never happens. You can get a person who enjoys the world on and on and on. They will never come to a genuine sense of inquiry. They will never come to bhakti unless they have piety. Unless they get devotional piety, they will never come to this conclusion. Okay, let's carry on. So samadhau na vidhiyate, that one-pointed fixation of the mind never happens. And Prabhupada says, samadhi is never possible for persons interested in material sense enjoyments and bewildered by such temporary things. They're more or less condemned by the process of material energy. Text 45. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nishtraigunya Bhavarjana Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvasto Niryogakshe Mahatmavan. Translation.
The Vedas deal mainly with the subjects of three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self.
So, this is Krishna's instruction to Arjuna regarding this particular component. Do not be like these Vedavada Rata people. Yes, the Vedas speak about many things, but focus on its essence. The majority of the Vedas deal with the three modes of material nature. Traigunya Vishaya. Vishaya, their object of attention, are the three modes of material nature. Nistraigunya, go above the three modes, O Arjuna, and look towards transcendence. Nirdvandvo, this means that one has to not think about results in this world. Dvandva means duality. Nirdvandva means defeat, victory, riches, poverty, happiness, sadness. Don't think in terms of material results. How can I do that? If Arjuna asks, Nitya Sattvasto. That's the second phrase there. The spirit soul is eternally situated in its own position, always. Remain fixed on the platform of the spirit soul. But I still have my own needs. Yes, I may be a spirit soul, but in the body, there are things I need to protect, there are things I need to maintain. Yoga kshema. Remember how Krishna says yoga kshema vahamyaham in the 9th chapter? So by that Krishna means I will protect what you have and carry what you lack. So here Krishna is saying, you yourself do not become overly concerned about protecting what I have and getting what you don't have. Be satisfied with what you have and use what you have naturally, simply for your own internal development. Don't wait until you get a position before you start. Start with what you have. But then how will I be maintained? I will maintain you. Niryogakshema. Don't think about it yourself. I, who am protecting the results of even the slightest amount of advancement you make, even though you are using me for liberation, I will give you what you need. I, as Paramatma, am maintaining elephants and ants even though they do nothing. And I will maintain you also, who are coming closer to me. So that's Krishna's instruction. In the bottom of this, as long as the material body exists, there are actions and reactions in the material modes. One has to learn tolerance in the face of duality such as happiness and distress. So Prabhupada is speaking about nirdvandva, or cold and warmth. And by tolerating such dualities, become free from anxieties regarding gain and loss. Niryoga kshema. This transcendental position is achieved in full Krishna consciousness when one is fully dependent on the goodwill of Krishna. Text 46. Yavan artha udapane sarvata sampluto dake tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanataha. Translation.
All purposes served by a small well, and at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all the purposes of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind it.
The purpose of the Vedas is to bring us closer to our original nature, to the platform of the spirit soul, and ultimately to Krishna. If one may ask the question, why is it that the Vedic scriptures give so much material benefit? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur answers. He says that the Vedas, being more kind than millions of mothers, has a place in its heart, in their heart, for every living entity. And they find, in whatever level the living entity is in, they find a way to connect that living entity somehow with Krishna's instruction, so that they can be connected to Krishna, they can progress upwards. So the fact that the Vedas contain this is not a fault of the Vedas. But if one goes to the purpose of the Vedas, by understanding the purpose of the Vedas, you don't have to think that you have to fulfill all these parts of the Vedas. Understand the purpose and everything else will automatically be fulfilled. And Prabhupada in the purport will speak about how the purpose of the Vedas is Krishna consciousness. Which verse in the Bhagavad Gita speaks about the purpose of the Vedas? 15:15 actually. Prabhupada would quote very often. Vedescha sarver aham eva vedyo, vedanta krit veda videva chaham. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler, the teacher, and the knower of the Vedanta. Krishna says. Prabhupada would quote that. He doesn't quote it here. Again, this purport we will discuss. Now here's the verse I wanted to come to today. We'll finish this off. Karmani evadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalaheturbhur ma te sangostva karmani. Translation.
You have a right to perform your prescribed duties, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty.
Okay. So this was the Nishkama Karma Yoga I described. This is the first, well, you can say the second instruction regarding Nishkama Karma Yoga, or the first complete description. Karmani eva adhikaraste. Adhikara means this is your position. You are not in a position, Arjuna, that you can just, act on the platform of the spirit soul. Your adhikar, your position is that you have to work in this world because you're attached. So therefore karma is you have to work with the activities of the material body. This is your qualification. But ma phaleshu kadachana. Do not do this focusing on external results. Ma karma phala heturbhur. Do not think that you are the cause of the results. You perform this activity for your internal purification. I will give you the result. Niryoga kshema. You don't think you are protecting yourself or you are throwing things away. Rather, ma karma phala heturbhur. I will give you what you need. And I will destroy your karma by just giving you your karma in this way. Ma karma phala heturbhur. Mate sangha. Do not become attached to the activity. Do not be attached to the nature of the spirit soul. Stva akarmani. And do not be attached also to not doing your duty. Oh, if I do my duty, I'll become attached. There was one devotee, very nice, sincere devotee. She asked when her child was born, what if I become too attached to my child? How is that connected to Krishna consciousness? No. You are attached, recognize it, and then, I'm so attached, I can't have a child, I can't get married. No, it's not like that. There is a proper procedure to work through these attachments. So do not be attached to not doing your duty. Do your duty. Be absorbed in your duty. Stay fixed in your duty, but for internal purification. Leave the external components to me. Offer the results of what you do to me, I will take care of everything else. I just want to read through this purport. We've discussed it already, but it's really important. Let's go through. There are 3 considerations here: prescribed duties, capricious work, and inaction. Enjoined in terms of one's acquired modes of material nature. Capricious work means actions without the sanction of authority, and inaction means not performing one's prescribed duties. Inactive, but that he perform his prescribed duty without being attached to the result. One who is attached to the result of his work is also the cause of the action. Thus he is the enjoyer or sufferer of the results of such actions. So here prescribed duties means what? Nitya karma, naimitika karma. Daily duties, occasional duties. And Prabhupada is going to describe that. Capricious work is vikarma, prohibited work. Inaction is not doing anything at all. That's also another kind of prohibited work, actually. So now Prabhupada is going to describe this. As far as prescribed duties are concerned, they can be fit into 3 subdivisions, namely routine work, daily duties, nitya karma, emergency work, occasional duties or naimitika karma, and desired activities, kamya karma. the third category we discussed. Routine work performed as an obligation in terms of scriptural injunctions without desire for results is action in the mode of goodness. Work with results becomes the cause of bondage. Therefore, such work is not auspicious. Everyone has his proprietary right in regard to prescribed duties, but should act without attachment to the result. Note, it doesn't say without attachment to the activity. There is attachment to the activity, just no attachment to the result. Such disinterested, obligatory duties doubtlessly lead one to the path of liberation. Here, disinterested doesn't mean that one doesn't take the effort. Disinterested in self-purification of heart. And one is attached, and one's mind is absorbed in performing the duty. It has to be the mode of goodness. Arjuna was therefore advised by the Lord to fight as a matter of duty without attachment to the result. His non-participation in the battle is another side of attachment. Such attachment never leads one to the path of salvation. Any attachment, positive or negative, is a cause for bondage. Inaction is sinful. Fighting as a matter of duty is the only. So fighting for himself would lead to bondage. Not fighting would lead to another kind of bondage, sinful activity for not performing his duty. It's a fine line. Performing duty according to Vedic direction offered to Krishna, performed with the right consciousness as far as possible in the mode of goodness, this will bring you closer to your actual self. And this, O Arjuna, is the right way to navigate through the complexities of this world. And remember, through this, everything, as when you serve the purpose of the Vedas, all the side components are automatically achieved. When you serve this purpose of the Vedas, your desire for happiness in this world or happiness in the next world, everything will be achieved. You don't have to go to individual components of dharma, respect for elders, or this or that. Focus on the essence, and here is the essence. Focus on this as an offering to me. You make an offering to me, you will not be implicated. You will be happy here, you will be happy in the next world. So that's Nishkama Karma Yoga. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. Sorry for the extra time. Hare Krishna.